Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Greg Olma with Key Performance Ideas, and I would like to welcome you to our demonstration of Oracle's cloud-based application for planning and budgeting. Today's webinar will be presented by Scott Costello. Scott Costello is the Director of EPM Cloud for Key Performance Ideas and is a CPA and certified Oracle Hyperion Planning, SBase, and Hyperion Financial Management Consultant. He has more than 18 years of consulting experience and has guided customers across a variety of industries in their planning, forecasting, close, and reporting solutions. Scott, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for the introduction. Welcome, everyone. As Greg mentioned, I'm going to be walking you through today a little bit of Oracle's planning and budgeting solution. So the purpose is really just to give you a first-hand demonstration of what the capabilities are within Oracle's Enterprise Performance Management Suite. So I'm going to be focused very much on budgeting, forecasting, and reporting processes. So we've already given a quick introduction. I'm going to give an overview of the solution just quickly in PowerPoint, and then I'll get right into the software. So Oracle does have a complete enterprise performance or corporate performance management solution where it focuses on helping the office of the CFO. That includes accounting and finance teams specifically, and can branch on beyond that. So a few things within that suite that help with things around the accounting team include account reconciliations, the close process, even enterprise reporting near the bottom there for external and narrative reporting. For the finance team, helping with plan, the budget, both short-term operational and long-term strategic, and then being able to see the profitability from different products, different divisions, different clients, you name it, across the organization. We are starting to see this expand, obviously, beyond just accounting and finance and the sales teams, marketing teams, anyone who actually needs to do the appropriate analytics, enter the appropriate budget, forecast information in a more granular level. So the tool I'm going to be showcasing today is the Enterprise Planning and Budgeting Cloud Service. I'm not going to read you the entire slide here, but just to give you some sense of what it can do in terms of integrating the entire planning process. Again, I mentioned it is focused on doing not just the short-term operational plan and collecting all your budgets from departments, but thinking about that long-term strategic plan too, looking out 3, 4, 5 years, being able to do different modeling, predictions, being able to take advantage of leading practices for budgets for things like rolling forecasts, so top-down, the bottoms-up, or driver-based. And then complementing the whole solution and the entire EPM suite is really what Hyperion and the EPM stack has been known for, is the reporting. So just having this flexible, scalable, auditable, secure back-end database that allows you to use tools like Excel, Microsoft Office Suite, and interact with the data directly with tools you already know. It also has some built-in dashboarding and reports that I'll showcase today as part of the solution. We've had a lot of success just in the past few years. Here's an example of folks using this technology, and they continue to use it and continue to grow within their organizations to branch out, again, just beyond finance for doing their budgeting and forecasting. I always like to start with a quick architecture of what the solution looks like. It does start with that one database. For those of you familiar, you might have heard the terminology of SBase. This is a long-standing Hyperion solution that's been around for over 30 years now. This database is scalable, it's secure, it's auditable, and it can grow with your business. So as opposed to things like Excel and spreadsheets and trying to move files around, this has that one place for all the information. So I always like to start with that because I'm going to show a few different interfaces. I'm going to show you the web interface available through mobile devices as well that allows you to interact directly with the data, update your budget, update your forecast directly in the application. And then I'm going to go into an add-in for the solution called SmartView. It's a Microsoft Office add-in that works with Excel, works with Word, and PowerPoint. I'll also show you some of the reporting and dashboarding that comes with it. What I like to highlight with this diagram is just that it is one single database. So you might see different looks and feels, different ways to access the data, and that's all it is. It's just different options for the users. So if they prefer working in an Excel environment, if they prefer working in a web environment, you can be assured that the data is all coming from the same place, and I'll showcase that today. And of course, the key is getting the data in, right? So you always like to start your budget with bringing in some actual data, trending your forecast perhaps. So we bring in usually a few years of historical data, current month. If you're forecasting on a regular basis, if you're rolling a forecast, we'll bring that general ledger data in to help you with that forecast. A lot of folks will do things that more granular around workforce planning, and I'll show the module that comes out of the box with that. So bringing in data from your HR systems or other systems. Maybe it's capital, maybe it's projects, maybe it's more detailed accounts receivable, accounts payable, where you could drill into some of the details directly into the database. So this is how I'm going to present things today. I'd just like to, again, give you that sense of how things look before we get into the tool. All right. Yeah, right into the web here. All right, so this is the interface of EPBCS. And what you can see here is I have logged in. It recognizes me and knows the date. I have the option of going into help. If I need any help with anything, I can download different add-ins. If I need any support, I can link right back to Oracle support. I can even provide feedback directly to the Oracle R&D team if I ever have any suggestions of how things should look. Everything in the back end is totally customizable to you, configurable for how you want to make it look. So if you want to change your background, you want to change the logo, you could do all that. And as updates occur, you don't have to worry about any of those changing. It recognizes when I log in that I have 15 tasks that are due today. I can see any of my recent tasks that I might have been playing with. I can even have favorites of different tasks that I may interact with on a regular basis. Maybe that's a dashboard, maybe that's... But I'm going to get into my tasks here real quick just to showcase this capability. Now what a task list is it's a set of tasks that I've given the end user in order to complete their budget. Step 1 might be review the guidelines. Step 2, update your operational expenses. 3, update things around employee planning or capital planning, do the long-term planning. And then last step is submit your budget. So in this task, I can put due dates, I can put alerts, I can see where people are trending as an administrator in terms of all the tasks, what's complete, what's overdue. And this all links with your email. So as a task is coming up, you can get an automatic email or send an automatic email to the users letting them know that that particular task is due. If I click on a task, let's say I just want to review the guidelines. A task can be as simple as instructions. So just laying out to the end users, hey, this is what we're going to do to complete the budget this year. Maybe they'll put some assumptions on here that we expect things to decrease by 2% or increase by 5%. You can put all those assumptions instead of an email or instead of having meetings, put it all right in the application so people have that access as they're going through their budget. I'm going to click on this first one just to give you a sense of what these screens can look like. This first task is just for me to update my expenses. Now, when I create these sort of data entry screens, I can make them look all sorts of ways. I can have little charts and dashboards. I can bring in my last year's actuals to compare to this year's budget. I'm just doing a few operating expenses here. I can drill in on different levels of detail. So I'm looking at my actuals here. Obviously, I don't want people to change that information, so you'll see the data is grayed out. I can't make any changes to these values. But if I did want to interact with these, I can do that. So if I say, you know, that April value of 1331, I'm not sure that that number looks exactly right. I can click on a drill through and say drill to the source. Now what it's going to do is it's actually going to pop up a a screen that'll have a bunch of detail behind the data. So that value of 1331 for my April Treasury expenses is really made up of a few different things. It's made up of, not just one trial balance line item, but it's actually made up of a whole bunch of invoices or general expenses, that I want to actually see. So just by clicking on a button, I can drill in and see all that detail in one spot. It just takes a second here to launch that, but now I can see here's all the travel expenses adding up to 1331 for this year, April actual Treasury travel expenses. And it's made up of all these different details of invoices. Now, I could have had this be comprised of vendor information. If they are, I could add it in client information, checks, POs, you name it. Whatever detail you can actually get out of the system, instead of having to jump back into your general ledger, as you're going through the budget process, you can interact and drill through back to any detail that you might have that you might want to give people access to without having given them access to your ERP system or to your general ledger, but just to that slice of data that they need when they're investigating their actuals. Now, on the budget side, if I drill into that a little bit, you'll see I have brought in different months of information. I've actually loaded my budget with last year's actuals, and now I want to go ahead and actually make some adjustments to those values. So if I come in and say, let's make this 18,000, when I click enter, you'll notice that my expenses from last year that I loaded for travel are actually a little bit lower in January, February, and March, and they, in the summer get a little bit higher, and then to taper down around holidays when one wants to travel. I enter that 18,000 number. What it does is it's going to spread those values back based on the seasonality of the application. So instead of you having to write any logic or any rules or anything like that, I can spread values back just based on what's ever loaded into the system. So in this example, if I know my office expenses need to come down to 10,000 and I have a monthly allotment, it's going to automatically say, let's spread that evenly because that's how we've consistently done it. Just by clicking save, I can save that right back to the database. So it changes things yellow when you've made an adjustment to it. You can undo those adjustments, but as soon as you click save, it commits to the database. I'm doing all this again for my Treasury department, although if I wanted to have the same data entry screen and use it for accounting, use it for finance, use it for HR, IT, any group out there, or any entity out there, I can pick and choose and adjust those without having to, again, maintain several different spreadsheets. A few other features that are available in the application, with just a right click on any cell, I can see change history. So if I want to know who changed this number last, I can see the new value, the old value, and the whole log of changes that were made. I can see who did it, the date, and the time that that change was made. So again, when somebody changes things in Excel, this visibility is often difficult. But in a database like Oracle's, all that's tracked at the same time, so I always have visibility into who changed what last. I can also put notes, just a right click. I can put commentary. I can put attachments on any particular cell to help identify it. I can even go a little bit further. So if I want to add detail behind this particular number of 742 because I'm taking a big trip, I could do that. So I'm going to say, let's say we're taking a trip. We'll take another trip to Las Vegas here. And I want to add detail to justify my trip. So that trip is going to entail some airfare. It's going to entail a hotel expense. And if you already have these accounts in the general ledger, there's no need to add these on the fly. But on any cell, if you want people to justify their numbers a little bit, and there's numeric information associated with it, and you want to see the details, instead of them kind of doing this on a scratch pad or doing this on another tab and then copying and pasting the values in, they could literally just type it in right here. So let's say we got a rate of $300. Airfare is $400, and we're going to stay 4 nights. Now, if I want to actually multiply the nights times the rate, I just play with my little operator here, and I can do some quick math. And now I've kind of given a little more detail onto my trip. Click Save. That detail is stored within the application. So 1,600 is stored directly in the database with all that detail. I can also, on any cell, put commentary. Big seminar in Vegas to help justify any variances that might be questioned along the way. And again, this comment on any of these notes and any of these details are with this Treasury department. So if I switch to accounting or a different group, they would only see the notes and the comments associated with that one. This also does come with a complete employee planning. I'm going to get into that in a little bit more in a second here. Some of the capabilities there. Capital planning, where I can add capital items and do depreciation and have it do depreciation amortization for me automatically. I can play with a complete long-term plan as well and have multiple versions. So if I want to plan 4 years out what the business is going to look like, I can use different drivers. I can have multiple versions and scenarios of this. Recently, in the summer of 2017, I gave a demonstration on strategic planning. If you haven't seen that, I recommend you go check that out. It goes into much more detail on the abilities of strategic planning and long-term planning. And it does come with, out of the box, this workflow. So the ability for me to come into any entity that I've been working with and create a true workflow with this. So if I was playing in Canada, I can say numbers are all good. And what it's going to do when I submit my budget is a couple things. It'll promote it automatically to my manager in the workflow, and I can see that whole workflow right here. It goes from me to N. Neal to E. of Pui. But if I just click Change Status, what happens is a couple things. An email gets sent to my manager, N. Neal, letting them know that the budget's been submitted for Canada. Any sort of comments or notes that have been made, and then he can run any reports, or she can run any reports that are needed, to validate everything looks good. They can then promote it up the chain. They can sign off on it or approve it. You could even pass ownership if someone's out of office or those sorts of things within the application. So this workflow is great. It's better if you have lots and lots of users in the system and you want some control over the whole process. I'm going to get into these modules a little bit more that we touched upon, employee and capital planning. But I wanted to just highlight all this interaction that you've seen that's available, not just in the web interface, but it's also available in Excel. So if I come out to Excel right now, you can see the data that I have in the spreadsheet. I'm looking at the United States Treasury. I have my add-in installed, and I'm doing a planning application. If I wanted to refresh everything here, let me make sure I'm logged in. So the users will be logged in to ensure they have security and they have access to things. It's going to go out and it's going to update the data. Right? So, again, this is a live link to that same single database. So I made the changes in the web. They're accessible over here. Everything that you can do in the web, I can also do through this interface. So if I realize, 10,000 is still a bit too high, I got to bring this down closer to 9,000. It's going to spread the data back without any formulas, without any links, and I can interact with it right here too. So a lot of times, users will gravitate to this environment, right? It's Excel. It's an environment everybody knows already, so the learning curve becomes a little bit simpler. The nice thing with this data entry screen being in Excel is it's unlike your typical Excel in that you don't have to have the formulas. The formulas are kind of behind in the database. I can't break this either, which means I'm not breaking links or anything like that, right? I can't insert things or delete things. I deliberately want to keep this as a static solution for the users to come in and update their information, but just in a very simple interface. Now, I still have all the capabilities of being able to do drill through, being able to put comments, doing supporting detail. I can even look at my cell history like we looked at before. I would say, okay, where did that $900 originate from? I just right-click on the 900, and I can see by date, by time, the old value, the new value, and the whole log, every change that was made to this particular cell. So that's one of the beauties of this solution is that people just love being able to interact with it in an environment that they're, what's more important and what people really like about this technology is I can come to a blank tab too. So if I go over to sheet 1 here and I have a blank screen, I can go through a complete ad hoc nature of this. So if I just type in, or someone comes to me and says, hey, I want some 2016 data, why don't you show me January's operating expenses? I can literally just type that information in my columns, in my rows, click refresh, and it's going to go back and query the database based on the information that I typed in here. So I just typed in 2016, January operating expenses, back out to the solution, and it's going to say, here's what your January operating expenses were. It's about $3.1 million. Now, if I want to investigate this further, I could just double-click. Well, it was made up of actually 3.14 with some allocations that are deducted. If I drill in even further, I can see the breakdown of all those pieces. If I want a 6-month view of this, I can just drag that across columns, click refresh, and I, in a matter of seconds, was able to create a 6-month operational expense view for my my plan. If I want to investigate this further, I can expose what's called the point of view. So the point of view shows you all the other details, all the other dimensions of the application. So I'm looking at actuals for all entities, for all departments. But if I said, you know what, let me just look at Treasury Department, I can click on Treasury, click refresh, and I would see just the expenses for the Treasury group actuals trending for those 6 months. If I want to see everything again, I just click on total department. Or if I want to see department in my rows or columns, I can drag and drop those into my rows, columns, and interact with it that way. Because it's all Excel too, I do have the capability of doing things like, let me do a quick refresh here, using some of the charting capabilities. So if I want a nice 6-month view of all my data here, I could just insert a chart. And now I'm tracking how my operating expenses are doing. That's how it's doing for all departments, how's it doing for the finance organization. I click refresh, about the same. Let's look at Treasury exclusively again. The chart's going to update automatically because my point of view is updating. So just makes it a little bit easier to interact with. So my March always seems to be high. I got to do a little further investigating what's going on in March. But that's how easy it is to interact with this and create these types of views. If I wanted to, I could create, a very specific type of chart or report that has a nice title. Maybe I throw a logo in over on the left. Maybe I put some commentary above or to the right. And again, it's just a refresh to bring in this data. And if I want to update this to see 2015, again, I just click refresh, and it's going to update data for me without me having to do a lot of manipulation. So again, this is what folks really like about the tool is the Excel interface and the Excel interaction and how flexible it is. But what's important to keep in mind with the Smart View add-in is that you can not only use it in Excel, but you can even use it in PowerPoint. So if I come out to PowerPoint, you'll see I have a Smart View ribbon here as well. You might have a management report, a board report, executive report. You might use you do some external reporting, things like that. You have capabilities with this suite of technologies to bring in all that data right into these tools. So all this information that you see here is actually a live link back to my database. It's not a copy and a paste. And as my data changes, I can just say, you know what, refresh this slide, or even refresh all the slides, and it'll update the whole PowerPoint deck for you without you having to manipulate things. So gone are the days of copying and pasting information in. You can have different charts and reports. You can even have, you know, a whole bunch of commentary supporting a value or supporting the table of information. So if we say we're going to be continuing expanding in emerging markets, how much does emerging markets account for? Just make this a dynamic link back to the database where when you click refresh, it'll update automatically for you. And if anyone ever has a question on that value during your presentation, you can always drill back into Excel and start to double-click and drill in and visualize it a little bit more. So that's a quick tour of the Microsoft Office suite. Another part of the solution I like to highlight is the reporting capabilities. So there is a package reporting application that allows you to do more pixel-perfect type reporting. It comes with a batch scheduler and being able to bundle books together. You can email these reports out to folks automatically. I can just have them come in, click on a link, update point of view, run whatever reports they have access to. And I often get asked, what about security? You can lock this down at a very, very granular level. So, you know, if I only have access to Treasury for the United States, that's all I'd be able to see. And I can see, again, a nice report. I can run this as a PDF instead of an HTML. I can push it out to Excel if I prefer. Or I can run, as I said, a whole book of reports at one time, schedule that, because it comes with a batch bursting utility that you can schedule, and push it out in an email. So people just get a PDF in their inbox, or they get a live link back to the application. So the reporting capability, again, another option. You have the Excel, a little bit more ad hoc capabilities with all Excel features for formatting. And then you have this financial report tool that comes with the solution that allows you to create reports and burst out reports to a larger audience. I wanted to highlight, too, a little bit more about the enterprise planning solution and that come with it. So we're going to be focusing on very specific webinars on each one of these. So I'm just going to touch on these a little bit here. I already did one on strategic modeling. We're touching upon workforce, capital, and projects. But this will also highlight some of the dashboarding that comes with the solution in terms of analytics and reporting. So if I go into the financials application, let's say, and I look at my expenses, and I want to do things around, you know, the pre-built rolling forecast, the driver-based capabilities that are built in with the module, all that's available. But these dashboards are available too, and they're all pre-built, so you don't have to go out and build them. You can modify them based on your business, but it gives you this nice starting point. So in this example, if I'm looking at my expenses for the year over year, here's my actuals, here's last year's forecast, here's my plan. I can see some discrepancies in the data. And that's what dashboards really do a great job of visualizing things. Right? So orange, small, big. What happened here? What's going on with my total other expenses? Well, let me double click and drill into it. I can see it's based on my compensation. So we added a whole bunch of new people, right? My salaries went up. So that obviously explains where my other expenses have a bit of an anomaly, you know, compared to years past. Same thing for each of the modules. So whether you're doing things around workforce planning, and I'll just touch upon some of the highlights here, but again, we'll have a full webinar on this. You know, it'll highlight things around the different employees that you have, a trend in your hiring, breakdown of compensation. You can do things like see employees in detail. I can plan for my employees, both for new hires and existing employees. Now, this is very sensitive data. That with just a right click or a click of a little tool here, excuse me, I could do things like add a new hire, change, calculate compensation for existing employees where I have information. I have similar capabilities where I might want to transfer that employee. Maybe they're going to change job. Maybe we have to plan for their departure. And when you click those buttons, what's nice about the system is it takes care of everything for you. So it'll prorate the compensation based on when your planned departure is or when your start date is. It'll take into account all benefit calculations that come out of the box with this solution that you apply for your employee planning. And transfers, which is always kind of a pain. It provides for an ability to have your transfers in somewhat of a holding pattern or allow one person to transfer from one group to another. What I think is really neat about the workforce planning piece that they've added is the demographic component of it. So as long as this data is available in your HR system, you're able to track this in some capacity, you can really start doing better analytics on things like, maybe there's a gender pay gap, and you can do some analytics to make sure that everyone's getting, look at things like age band, look at things like education. Are we hiring the right people? Who are the most successful ones? What schools are they going to, or what degree of education do they have? And skill sets. Are we getting people with the right training, or do we need to invest in more training? So it starts to think of people not just as a dollar amount, but really an investment. Where do we need to invest more in order to appropriately, grow the business with the right workforce that we want? As mentioned, there's capital planning that's built into this. I won't go into too much detail, but there's all different types of capital planning. So if you're doing things around investments, you can do new asset planning, lease assets. You could do things around existing assets to bring those in. You could do things around intangible assets. And then you can have drivers for all that. Right? So for my intangibles, I need a table of an amortization, useful life, all comes out of the box capital planning solution. And then last is around projects. So whether you're doing things around, let me just pull up a good project here. Oops, sorry. My manufacturing team, because my sales team doesn't have a lot of IT projects this year, so I can select the manufacturing group and see all the projects that they have planned. I can even see things like how many hours are they going to spend on each project? What's the total investment? What's the ROI on the project? The net present value. Now, a project can be anything in an organization from, an implementation of new software could be kind of as a project, or revamping all the hardware within the organization, buying a piece of land and developing it. All those can be, different types of projects, obviously, that you can use this out-of-the-box solution for and plan all the expenses, all the revenue, workflow, have prioritization effect so that you can decide which ones you want to invest in and which ones you don't. You can have things around indirect projects, capital projects, or in this one, contract-type projects. And even those projects themselves, you can determine which ones are time and material, fixed fee. So for each type of project, you have a lot of different options. So that's a quick run-through of these modules. Again, it's part of the enterprise planning budgeting solution. It comes with financials, projects, capital, workforce, and then strategic modeling. These are great out-of-the-box tools that just make you get up and running a little bit quicker with some pre-built, pre-packaged capabilities. So that's the end of my demonstration today. I did want to thank everyone. I'm going to turn this back over to Greg to help conclude today's presentation.
Thank you, Scott. And thank you all for joining us today for our demonstration of Oracle's cloud-based application for planning and budgeting. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Scott's and my contact information are displayed on your screen. Thank you again, and have a great day.